Yeah, waiting for it to pop up on the screen here. I'm watching uh, in real time. It's probably already live. Who
Oh,
knows?
you're
By the
certainly
way,
live.
We've been
yeah,
live. We'll do it double live.
I must say, Josh did a solid job with Odell Beckham there, and he putting together some nice images. Josh, I dig it. I
Thanks, man.
definitely, you know, this is the game plan. He's Ben Rasa. I'm Dave Lochran. We're glad to be with you. Bruce is stoked. Bruce Jr. is ready to make
Ready.
this happen. I know we're live. I appreciate it though. You just gotta sometimes start off a little bit differently. And I was up till like 3 a.m. playing Red Dead Redemption 2, Ben. So this is gonna be a long one.
That game taking over the world. Never heard of it in my life, and now all I see is carriages and horses on my TV. People getting trampled. I don't really understand, but is it
The
fun?
last dude, the last video game I bought was uh, around this time last year, Call of Duty World War II. I don't really play video games, right? Once in a while, Madden or what
Mhm.
was it, Rory McIlroy? I got into a bit, but this game is straight up addicting. It is. I mean, I won't say what I'm doing because I don't know. People out there might take offense to video game violence, but yeah, it's pretty. You can choose to help people. You can guy who's caught with a bear trap. You can choose to let him go or like try and get the bear trap off. So I like lifted it halfway and then let go and exploded everything. Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty
Sounds
fun.
like my DFS lineups lately, but fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah. There you go. No
Give
one
me
wants.
hope, and then it comes crashing down with a bear trap.
No one else wants to hear about that though, so we'll keep it going. But we're glad to have y'all with us today. This is the game plan presented by awesemo.com. We got 10 games. And Ben, look, before we actually jump into the games here, it is an interesting slate, a really interesting one. And I'm not just saying that as some generic cookie cutter term. It's really interesting because the Saints aren't on it. The Rams aren't on it. The Chiefs aren't on it. And I'll even throw the Falcons into it. The Falcons might not be a good team from a record standpoint, but the Falcons are also a team that has a lot of fantasy viability each week. Those are four teams out of the gate that won't be on the schedule today.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you throw Packers, Vikings, and not that the Texans and Titans, but those are teams that are decent spots. It really creates an interesting vacuum at the top where different guys are filling the Gurley, those type of salaries. The Kamara, the Michael Thomas. We see different players in there this week, and it just creates a different dynamic of A, how is the ownership going to fall, and B, do you still want to pay up for different top end talents? So I do like that different wrinkle kind of to change things up in the middle of the year here.
All right. What do you say we jump into this then?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's kick it off with Cleveland, Cincinnati. No AJ Green. He wasn't expected to play. He was questionable at upgraded from doubtful to questionable, downgraded from questionable to doubtful. Andy Dalton has been really bad with AJ Green out of the lineup. I mean, Tyler Boyd is a quality receiver, but he's not getting the job done because Dalton's not getting the job done. Now, granted, two tougher defensive matchups, two tougher opponents that they've faced recently, Ben. Now they've got this home matchup against the Cleveland Browns in Cincinnati. This game right now, Cincinnati's a 1-point home favorite, a 46-point total here with no AJ Green. Let's start with the Bengals side of the ball.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because if you think that it's more the matchups, this is a pretty good sneaky buy low spot on some of these guys. Tyler Boyd, the ownership's down, the price is down. Mixon, who we both like to play. I know Gio's back, and he did take some. It's not a true workhorse situation, but at the same time, I think Mixon in a competitive game is going to get plenty of work to justify a 6,800 tag. Those are really the guys. I kept it pretty simple on the Bengals side. If I do think they play pretty well today at home, and I have no problem with their two main weapons on offense right now.
Yeah, Bernard was targeted 4 times last game, 3 times in week 10, his first game back. But right, and Mixon's snap count, if we're being fair, did come back down to earth. Actually, it was his lowest since week 2 when he left early with that injury. But at the same time, against Baltimore or against New Orleans, they just completely abandoned the run. Um, and then against Baltimore, he was completely ineffective against a Ravens run defense that has been really stout all year long. It's hard to think that against the Cleveland team that's been gashed in the run this year, that they don't lean on Joe Mixon here, especially given how much Andy Dalton has struggled without AJ Green in the lineup. Cleveland ranks I think 26th in run defense DVOA this year. I expect to see them spring more leaks tonight or today.
Yeah, I mean the way to attack this team is with Mixon, and the one game like you just talked about it. The Saints game was, that's such an outlier just because it was such a absolute beatdown. And then last week the Ravens just rendered him ineffective. So you don't really know what you're getting. I wouldn't be stunned to see the volume go up, especially if they establish the run early and it's effective. And that should be the way that the Bengals go with just looking at how the Browns defense is structured.
What are you doing about the passing game here? Because I have clearly no interest in Uzuma. Like, people keep going back to the well there, but he's clearly touchdown or bust. Basically 1 or 2 targets per game, and you got to catch him for touchdowns. It's hard for me to really get on board with anyone here outside of Boyd. And even in Boyd, I do the Sirius show on Saturday and Sunday. We get a lot of seasonal questions. Tyler Boyd in seasonal leagues, sure, you're going to play the guy, right? But where you actually have a choice to not have to play him, what do you do? Because his price tag has come down precipitously since the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's the one guy. Obviously we're going through all the games. The one problem for me, there's a lot of other guys in that mid six in terms of receivers that I'm pretty
Yeah.
interested in. So it's not like it's just do I want to play him or not. It's do I think he's better than Gordon, Hilton, Sanders, a lot of other players that I'm pretty into. But outside of him, no chance John Ross or Usama touches my lineups this week.
Yep, no question. That's where I'm at as well. And I'll have some. I'm going to have some Boyd because his prices come down, but I'm not overloading on Boyd either.
Yep.
I think that's pretty much the way that I'm going to be going about this one. On the other side, though, Nick Chubb continues to get a massive workload, and it's amazing because Freddie Kitchens, the offensive coordinator who's been with them for a few weeks now, is basically saying, like, game script be damned. Chubb's getting the work, right? Against Kansas City, got 23 total touches, 22 carries when they were playing down by 2+ scores in the second half, 21 or 20 carries, and the Browns' longest franchise run for 92 yards against Atlanta. He's got 18+ carries in 4 straight games since Carlos Hyde's been gone. I know Chubb's price point has come up a bit, but it's really hard for me to ignore him with the amount of work he's going to get. The only caveat, the only downside is that Duke Johnson, has also been incorporated or integrated pretty heavily into the passing game since Kitchens took over.
Yeah, it's funny. Duke Johnson's getting a boost. He's finding the end zone, and Chubb is still getting there. So it's an interesting dynamic. I'm not against playing Chubb. I totally get it. I think people are going to look there in both cash and tournaments. I'm a little skeptical, to be honest, though. I think I'm more on the Bengals in this game, both in DFS and in the game script. And I wouldn't be stunned to see, not that the 90 whatever yard run was a bad thing, but it obviously he went nuclear, and it's because of that. 6,300, the price is up, the ownership is up. If I attack the Browns, I'm actually going to go against the grain and use Baker, maybe Njoku, stuff like that, and attack through the passing game. Those guys are an afterthought on this slate, and I really found the slate in general to be wide open at quarterback. I think you can go a lot of different directions this week.
Yeah, I think so too. I tell you though, Jarvis has been an extreme disappointment.
Awful. It's hard to. I looked at him. I do have some shares just because I have some Baker, but he's just not even getting. Usually when he's ineffective, it's 7 for 70, and he's not finding the end zone. His floor is actually becoming very shaky, and that I never thought we would see that.
Yeah, and I think we're learning that using him as your go-to primary number 1 receiver has its pitfalls.
Yep. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
As a possession guy, he could. I believe Landry could be one of the best number 2s in the game in the right system. You know what I mean? Yeah. One of the best possession guys in the game.
Yeah, he fills the problem with him. He's kind of, I don't want to say he's a one-trick pony, but he does what he does, and in certain scenarios with the Browns, they've kind of needed him to be other things, and it renders his best assets kind of useless.
Absolutely. Anything else on this game? Do you have any interest in Njoku here?
Yeah, I don't mind him just because, we'll get to Cameron Brate and Njoku's come down to earth. He's still a big red zone threat. He looks fine. I know he was a little banged up. They say the knee is no problem. Not a ton because I mostly paid up at tight end, like I feel most people are, but I do have some shares of him.
All right, let's move on here. You guys have any questions? Feel free to throw them in chat. Happy to answer your questions. Also, if you've yet to do so, you want a free week behind the paywall, all premium content at awesemo.com, AWESEMO. Get the spelling right. Use the promo code GamePlanShow, all one word. When you go to awesemo.com, hit the join now on the homepage and select the plan you like. Use GamePlanShow, all one word. As your promo code, you'll get a free week, free everything behind content, behind paywall, including Slack chat. You get to check everything out, test the waters first before committing to anything. All right, Ben. Seattle and Carolina. Interesting game here because Doug Baldwin has not played all week, or I'm sorry, has not practiced all week. He has a good shot to play, according to Pete Carroll. But right now, it's really tough to get a good evaluation on really anything here, being that we haven't seen him on the field. The Seahawks are 3-point dogs here, 46.5-point total in Carolina. And it's possible that Newton's a little bit more banged up than he's alluded to as well. So this game definitely has some moving pieces, and we haven't even gotten into the DJ Moores and the David Moores of the world yet.
Yeah, this is a big one, not just for DFS. Huge game in the NFC. It's a weird one though, because you look at both quarterbacks obviously more on the mobile side. You can take them alone, but if you want to pair them up, it's really tricky to know where to go. Baldwin, as you said, kind of a mystery. Obviously, Funchess is now out, so DJ Moore becomes popular. I'm more, to be honest, this is a game where I took some stabs because I do like it. You have McCaffrey, who safe, no problem, fire him up if you like him. But on the receiver side, I actually went to what I don't even think are secondary options. I just think they are lesser owned guys with similar upside. So I looked at Curtis Samuel. I looked at guys like David Moore for the Seahawks, and I don't mind paying down in those spots if you want to pair up your quarterbacks. I don't know exactly how this game plays out. It should be competitive. Carolina at home, really strong. I hope they win. I think they do win. But yeah, I actually was more against the DJ Moore and more on like guys like Curtis Samuel.
Interesting. I mean, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a good amount of DJ Moore last week, only because it's fun to target these guys when people are down on them after a disappointing effort. And he had a big game against Baltimore, then 2 disappointing games, and then broke out. By the way, I don't know if anybody watched that game. Darius Slay is ridiculously fast. The fact that, did you see him chase Moore down in the middle of the field on what should have been a certain touchdown?
What game are we talking about?
Last week, Lions and Panthers. DJ Moore had that contortionist sideline pass, and Darius Slay comes out of nowhere in the middle of the field to chase him down at the 5 or so.
Yeah, that guy is super fast. I was like the Lion. I'm thinking of the garbage that we just saw on Thursday.
No, that was garbage.
Yeah, it was not good.
What a bad Thanksgiving slate, huh?
They got to move the Lions to the later game to give me some hope. I can't get through the first game every year. It's just horrendous. But yeah, I mean, DJ Moore, like I said, the upside is going to be there, and I guess he draws more attention this week. But at the same time, Curtis Samuel, they have plenty of weapons. Cam is a weapon. Christian McCaffrey, of course, is going to get plenty of work. So if the ownership, and I think it will be there, I do not mind coming in a little underweight on a guy like that.
Fair enough. Here's the reason I still do like Moore quite a bit. He's still really cheap.
Yeah.
You're still getting him at a very reasonable salary. And he still has quite a bit of upside. Like Moore, we know he can score. Only a couple touchdowns on the year, but it's not like this guy is not capable of finding the end zone. Cam Newton's beginning to lock on to him a little bit more recently, and kid's got some speed, so I really like him. just because I'm still getting him at a discount. He's 4,600 on DraftKings. To me, that's still too cheap. And Devin Funchess isn't playing this game, so that makes Moore the de facto number one. But like you said, it thrusts Samuel into the 2 spot, unless, of course, you think Torrey Smith is going to have a very big role, which I guess is possible, but he's still Torrey Smith.
Yeah, I mean, that's an unknown, but my thought was DJ. And the thing about DJ Moore, last thing I'll say is I'm 100% with you. The upside is not in question. He could absolutely duplicate what we saw last week. I just think he's going to be I'd say a staple of people's cash lineups, and I'm not doing that because I still think there's a lot of scenarios where Cam goes to Olsen, McCaffrey, other guys, and DJ Moore has a middling game. So I think you can get away from that in when you're looking for more safety and floor.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I'm going to go to more. What about quickly? Where are you at on McCaffrey? Because while we don't have Todd Gurley or Kareem Hunt or Alvin Kamara on this slate, you still have a decent amount of good running backs. Barkley being one of them. Shredded the Eagles last time out. Pretty much shredding every team he faces based on sheer volume and some efficiency. Looks like Melvin Gordon's going to play. I don't know what his workload will be. James Conner against the Denver defense that sprung leaks on the ground recently. You get the point. There are a lot of decent running back options, even in the 6 and 5K range, if you want to work Breida and Mixon into the field. What do you do with McCaffrey here, who's got 100 yards from scrimmage, and it's got to be almost every game this season, or a touchdown?
Yeah, there are plenty of still really good backs. You just rattled them off, but honestly, McCaffrey's up towards the top for me in just terms of floor. He's so safe. He's game script proofed. He's obviously he can do so much in the passing game. He produces almost every week, and I'm not as worried about playing a guy who I think maybe his ceiling is a notch lower, because the guys that really freak me out when I play someone like him are Kamara or guys who have like 45 as ceilings.
Right.
Someone, Saquon, yeah, we'll get to him, obviously. And with Melvin Gordon is a big unknown. Connor, to me, they're more in the McCaffrey bucket, where I feel a lot more comfortable rostering him at a price that he normally is at. I don't think it's a premium by any stretch.
No, I think it's actually a really reasonable price point for Christian McCaffrey, right? Below 8K makes him a really viable option, especially given I'm a little bit worried about Melvin Gordon. I don't even think that he's that hurt. I think they wanted to give him a maintenance day because they're facing the Cardinals at home. They're 13-point favorites or 14? No, they're 14-point favorites at home. And it kind of feels like Melvin Gordon, might see a lighter workload, whether it's up to him or not. So we'll get to him as well. But quickly on the other side, Russell Wilson facing a Carolina defense that has really underwhelmed this season, particularly in the secondary. We don't know what's up with Baldwin. David Moore has been, okay. He has not been that bad. He's getting some work. It's sporadic, but he's still getting some work. And then the backfield here, I think, actually Silva pointed out in his matchups article that we're starting to get some clarity on what this RBBC looks like, this committee, where it's like Carson is the lead back on the ground, Penny's the change of pace guy, and Mike Davis is the pass catching back, which is all well and good. But from a fantasy standpoint, it really hinders all of their ceilings and their floors.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I agree exactly with that take, but it didn't make me any more apt to try to take someone like Carson. I looked at him and I get it, but I just kind of stayed away and I said, let other people try to chase that, because it's very difficult to peg the production you get. I talk about this often on shows. I don't like the feeling of having to get it right twice. Like, you got to get the guy who gets the work, and then he has to play well in the same game. It's kind of like a parlay. It's just longer shots than you really want. So I kept it pretty generic. Like I said, we'll see with Baldwin. Obviously, Lockett is in play, but I took some David Moore. I think he's out there enough. The upside is there, and he's kind of an afterthought on a game that could be pretty juicy from a DFS perspective.
David Moore, I agree with you, by the way, is the only player in this game I really have any interest in. I'm sorry, only player from Seattle side of the ball that I have really any interest in, particularly if Baldwin sits. But you're right. I have no interest in trying to guess what this backfield is is going, not what it's going to look like, but what the results are going to be. And if Carson's not involved at all in the passing game, and if Penny's getting worked in, it'd be different if it was just Carson and Davis. And Carson was getting his 18, 20 carries a game, Davis getting 7 carries with the third down looks. That's fine. But introduce Penny into the mix and I'm good. So I'm good to move on. You want to move on to this next barn burner between the Bills and Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yeah, this is right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I'm going to have some Buffalo defense again, by the way.
Yeah.
God, were they a colossal disappointment, or were the Jets a disappointment, or what 2 weeks ago? My God.
Yeah, that summed up a lot. That was a culmination of a lot of things that have been built. It was, I finally, we both had talked about this. It was like, I stayed away from the Bears against the Bills, and I said to myself, I have to stop being stupid. Like, I just need to take the obvious defense against the Bills and move on. And then they got me -3. So that was frustrating for sure.
Yeah, I'm going back to the well with the Bills defense, though.
Oh, yeah.
Jacksonville's on a 6-game losing streak. They continue to play like garbage. This team heading into Northern New York, I don't think they have much interest in playing football at this stage of the game. Doug Marrone is an idiot when it comes. I'm sorry, he can't close games out. Like you let Ben Roethlisberger and Brown and Juju and Connor get back into the game because you say, you know what? We're just going to run it to Fournette no matter what. Who cares if he averages 2 yards a carry? We're just going to run it. We're going to 3 and out. We're going to run it on 3rd and 10. Nobody, who cares? It's just crazy. You'd think he would have learned by now, but that's in the past, Ben. Buffalo's still a 3-point dog at home. I don't care. And I will have some LaShawn McCoy as well at his dirt cheap price. What are you doing with this game? Because that's really all I'm doing in this one.
Yeah, game from a DFS perspective, pretty easy for me. I have no interest in the Jaguars. I was on the Jaguars money line last week. I was on the Jaguars defense last week. They are done. That was it. I expect them to come, like many people, I expect them to come in absolutely dead today. I bet the Bills money line. I think the Bills beat them handily today. I like LaShawn McCoy and the Bills defense, and that is it. I just think they control the game with the defense, and Shady at 4,200 against a defense that we don't really know where Jacksonville is as a whole. Pretty fine spot if you want to kind of take some savings there.
Yep. It's really simple for me.
Yep.
Bills defense is cheap. LaShawn McCoy is really cheap. He's coming off his first decent game of the year with his first and second touchdown. Amazingly, it was on the road. I'm not saying it happens again. I'm not expecting 28 fantasy points from McCoy, Ben, but he is cheap enough to the point where, he's the same price as basically Isaiah Crowell and Doug Martin and Jalen Richard, and he's cheaper than a bunch of other guys that generally don't give you much production at all. It's just a price play on both of them, and Jacksonville looks like they've given up.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm willing to roll the dice with him in a game at home against a team that it looked like last week was the death blow. But now I know we're about to talk. It's a perfect segue to Baltimore because it looks like Alex Collins is inactive, and that changes some things.
Yeah, let's move it on. Alex Collins' foot will be inactive. His foot won't be inactive. He'll be inactive because of his foot. So his whole body will be inactive against this bad Oakland defense. Ben, this Oakland team, I think they accidentally won last week. I don't think they wanted to win. They're 13-point dogs today. Basically, this entire Oakland team is either hurt or has quit. Brandon LaFell's now on the IR. Who knows what's going on with Jordy Nelson? It looks like he's going to play. Martavis Bryant is out. Just everybody's cooked, right? Everybody's done, and everybody that's healthy, even if you want to throw Jared Cook in there, it's like they're actively trying not to get him the ball. So it's a really favorable spot for Baltimore to just ram it down their throats, run the ball as much as humanly possible. Last week, and then I'll throw this over to you, Lamar Jackson had 26 attempts. Gus Edwards had 17 attempts. Alex Collins had 7 attempts, and then even work in some Buck Allen with a single attempt. So that's what I'm not even going to bother counting, but that's up around 50 rushing attempts with everybody combined. And I think they do the same thing today.
I was about to say that's next words of their mouth, and that's what they want to do once again. Their defense, as we've talked, really good. They're going to hold Oakland down, and they want to lean on that running game. I was not into Gus Edwards. That this is going to
Was
change.
just gonna say that. Yep.
I had no interest. I was
Yep.
looking to pivot. I liked Shady. I liked paying up.
Yep.
It's hard to now. I'm putting him. I can tell you right now, I'm going to probably move him into my cash lineup. And I'm gonna have to play some. We still, even with this, Baltimore. I've said this before, and it seems like they have an expanded roster because they have 50 guys at every position. Like, I'm not saying that Gus Edwards now is the lock of the lock, because I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibilities that Buck Allen gets involved, and even we'll see what's up with Ty Montgomery. I don't even know if he's active, but the question that I have, and I don't have a great answer, is what to do with Lamar Jackson. My gut feel is if this is a game that they control, they do not want him running 26 times again. That just seems excessive.
Right. By the way, I appreciate anyone that wants to throw information in chat that's accurate. Put your sources in to chat if you're going to do it, please. Don't mix everybody up here. There's no need to dick around with people when everyone else putting money on the line. If you see news, you want to put it out there, fine. Just try and be remotely accurate here. So I just kind of important. Now, if anyone is questioning this, Jamison Hensley, who is the Ravens reporter, ESPN Ravens reporter, Ravens RB Alex Collins' foot is not expected to be active Sunday, according to a source. The expectation is Gus Edwards will start. There you have it. Okay. If we have anything else, fine. But I see a million things. Collins is playing. Well, I'm seeing in several different spots that he's not, and reliable sources. So get that right before you start making assumptions here. Ben, Gus Edwards, I had no interest in.
Yep.
Like you said. Now I don't really know how you don't have interest in him. I'm not saying you're playing 100% in tournaments, and I'm not saying he's going to cross the century mark for the second straight game, but clearly Buck Allen has fallen out of favor in Baltimore. Clearly Ty Montgomery is not exactly somebody that anyone has much interest in. By the way, if you look at, I'm just curious, if you look at Ty Montgomery's game log, you just pull it up. How did he have 0 attempts for 5 yards?
See, that's efficiency that they may not be able to ignore, because not bad.
I don't know.
I
don't know.
Yeah, that's a bold average 0. Yeah, not bad, Ty.
This is true.
It's a mystery.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, no. See, Miley virus. I'm cool with that. You want to put that in chat? That's cool. That helps everybody, actually, as long as you're not like typing that up and making it look like a real tweet. We're good. I got no problem with that. But we're following the news. Honestly, Ben and I are following the news as we go along. So we got you covered. Don't worry. Torrey Smith is playing. Doug Baldwin is also playing. So there's 2 pieces of news, one of them more important than the other. Ben, back to this Baltimore-Oakland game. Outside of Edwards and maybe Lamar Jackson, who I don't think I'm going to have all that much of, honestly, because yes, it's cool that he's amazing on the ground, but it's tough to think that I'm not kidding here, and I say there's a good possibility he throws like 9 times today. I'm not even joking.
No, and I also think this is a guy, he's not a mobile quarterback. He's just a runner who happens to play quarterback. Like, the passing game is not there right now. So for him to really get there, I think he's going to need heavy volume on the ground. And if the game gets out of hand, I cannot imagine that they want to put him out there running like that. It's just not a necessity. Now, he did, in all fairness, he did not score last week, and he still got there. The upside's not in question. So if you want to throw some flyers, I totally get it. But I don't think you can peg Lamar Jackson week in, week out for 20 carries and 100 yards.
Right. And you better hope that he does, because you're not getting 300 passing yards.
No, not cumulative on the year. So it's not happening anytime soon.
All right. By the way, Oakland is 25th in run defense DVOA, but they're allowing 142.3 rushing yards per game. That's second most on the year. Now, the reason I care about the rushing yards per game and less about the efficiency here is because Harbaugh and Edwards and this team, they don't it Ben, it won't I don't think it'll matter if they average 3 yards per carry. They are just going to run the football no matter what, because I don't see any way Oakland's offense gets anything going. I don't think it'll even matter. You're just going to run the football down the throats and hope that your defense has been very stout all season long outside for a blip on the radar game against, I think it was Carolina, has shut teams down.
Yeah, I agree. I think they control the clock and control the game on the ground. And from a fantasy perspective, that may lend itself to a piece or two, but it doesn't seem like a great game as a whole, obviously.
Agreed. By the way, this defense, Ravens defense, is also a pretty favorable
Absolutely.
here.
Yep, no problem with them.
All right. Rusty Antonio says Laffy sucks.
Ooh.
Thanks, Russ. Glad to have you here, bud.
Hit
Hey, speaking of, I was going to say, speaking of, if you guys enjoy the show, hit that thumbs up button for us. It does us a lot of favors here over for the channel and at Awesemo. So we appreciate all of you. Except you, Russ. He says, reliable source, Tommy G. Laffy sucks. All right, let's keep it going. San Francisco, Tampa Bay. San Francisco, Tampa Bay.
Ugh.
Looking at the total here, Ben, no surprise. This game's got the highest one on the slate, 54.5. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 1.5 point favorites. So you've got a 1.5 point spread, a 54.5 point total, and two god-awful, atrocious football teams that are going to be really popular today. That's what makes fantasy football so fun, isn't it?
That's one way to describe fantasy football. Yeah, but this is a disgusting game, and it's one that, I mean, short list of keys to the slate. You're gonna have a lot of options on both sides of the ball. I'll talk about Tampa first, I guess. So yeah, Jameis in play. He's horribly inefficient, but that can actually be an asset if he turns it over and it leads to scores. It forces them to play catch up. You know, it's crowded in that receiving core. You got obviously Mike Evans, and then you've got Djax, Godwin, Humphreys is getting work. And then Cameron Brate, who is going to be popular. Like many, I saw OJ Howard's gone, so I figured, okay, this is just a plug and play. It is not a plug and play.
It is absolutely not. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's just it's not a big boost to him. If you look at the splits with Howard off, he's very live for a couple targets in this game, and he's a non-factor. He's also live, of course, to have a fine game, but this is not as simple as, oh, Brate is wildly underpriced, you just play him. I think with the ownership that we're expecting there's plenty of other options in his price range or just paying up. And that's what I'm doing more times than not.
Yeah, I'm with you. By the way, Mike Verderosa, apologize if I pronounced that wrong, asked if Marcel Aitman is in play with Jordy playing. I'll be honest, even if Jordy was out, I wasn't playing him. Baltimore's defense is good. Maybe he got like 5 for 40, but there is plenty of value. I don't think you need to go there, even if Jordy was out. So I just wanted to mention that, Ben. Are you on Aitman?
No, I'm just, like you said, it seems like an unnecessary risk.
Yeah, like Seth Roberts last week.
Yeah.
Lapel, they're just not good.
And he might be a good player. Like, I saw him in college a lot. I actually like the guy. I just,
Eric Carr's just terrible.
It's just hard. There's a lot of things that could go wrong there.
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back there quickly. And again, like I said, if you guys have questions, I'm happy to answer them, preferably if we're on the game. But, you know, another thing, too, is people saying people flock to the play from the previous week, recency bias. Yeah, fading recency bias is a good thing, no doubt. I do think it's different with Gus Edwards, though, when the game plan is almost certainly going to be run the ball as many times as possible.
Yeah, with Gus, that's where I was. Like, it was recency bias, and I didn't love the spot for Gus Edwards.
I had 0 of him before the Collins news.
I had a sliver. This is now a situation where it looks like it's almost impossible for him not to get a pretty sizable workload. So at that price, you can always still fade if you think he doesn't turn it into stuff, but the opportunity is going to be there. And I didn't think that was a certain if Collins was active.
I'm with you. I got to tell you, though, Cameron Brate, to me, is is kind of the epitome of bad chalk. With OJ Howard out in the past, doing yesterday's show, I had a bunch of calls saying, I got Cameron Brate locked in. Now who do I play after this? I'm like, well, your first mistake might actually be locking Cameron Brate in. Not even to be a dick either, just because I don't think I don't really see Cameron Brate being a guy that's going to soak up a ton of usage, a ton of our target volume. And here's what I'm saying, Ben. We can spend a little time on this game. Here's what I mean by this. First of all, I love George Kittle on the other side. With how banged up San Francisco is, Kittle still caught 13 of 14 targets since Nick Mullins took over at the helm. He is a very reliable tight end. He's not cheap though, so it is tough to get up there, but George Kittle's been pretty reliable. With Cameron Brate, with OJ Howard out last year in several games that he missed, it's not like Brate just developed into this target monster. And that also isn't including the fact that you have Mike Evans, you have Deshaun Jackson, who we know is going to play. You have Chris Godwin. Granted, Godwin hasn't been great, but you still have Chris Godwin, particularly in the red zone. You have Adam Humphries, who has seen an uptick in targets over the past 3 or 4, well, like 5 weeks. It's not like you are completely devoid of bodies where Cameron Brate is just going to jump into a role where he sees, 5 to 8 targets. That's what concerns me most here, Ben. And if Brate doesn't score, I put it to you this way: if Brate doesn't score, he will be a bust. And even if he does score, it's very possible that he has like 2 receptions for 15 yards and a touchdown. So I'm very, very leery about this play.
Yeah, and I'll just throw one more, even though, in my opinion, not the best real life football player, but Peyton Barber did show some life last week. It's not beyond the realm of possibilities that the ground game is a factor here, and that's just another way that the Bucs can move the ball. Brate, like I said, if you want to play him even in cash, people are going to use him in cash. I'm not saying I'm not, because I do think, at the price you can go there. But tournaments, I'm really just not interested, and I don't see many ways outside of him catching, like Ebron the other week, where he makes all his catches turn out to be touchdowns. I don't know how many other ways Brate is burning you at that price tag, even if he gets a fine game and returns 12. With the opportunity cost at tight end this week, and I know a lot of people, including me, are pairing tight ends together to get 2 of them. That might not be, super effective. And I don't mind Njoku and a couple other guys in that range. So I am 100% with you in not being overly interested in Cameron Brate.
Yeah, that's kind of what it comes down to. By the way, a lot of great questions coming in chat. All of these, if we're, and by the way, Dylan Newell or Laffy, are you an Eagles fan? Unfortunately, yes, I'm a diehard 4-for-4 Philly fan, and sometimes it's tough to live. But anyway, a lot of these good questions that are coming in chat, we're going to answer these because they're on games that we haven't even gotten to yet. All of those questions we will get to. These are topics that we're certainly going to talk about. But first, Ben, let's just finish this one out. San Francisco and Tampa Bay. Like I said, I do still have interest in Kittle here. Matt Breida figures to see quite a bit of work. Where are you at on Breida?
Yeah,
I like him.
So do I. I'm on him. I was on him it was a showdown slate, but I really liked him against the Giants. He's been banged up. He's off the bye week. And I do think that I've said this before, that with Mostert gone, he's going to get a little bump in the passing game, and that makes all the difference. This is about as good a matchup as you're going to find. Price has jumped a bit, but he's still in this, 5,700. I can live with that. So, you can look to Kittle and you can look to Breida. Then it gets dicey. This is the tricky spot with no good, if Goodwin sits, obviously Garcon, I think he's already rolled out. You have a handful of receivers and someone's probably going to emerge, whether it's Pettis or Bourne or even Trent Taylor, but man, it's tough to trust any of them.
Yeah, Juice might get a few looks in the passing game, but it stands to reason that Breida gets a lot of work here. I don't see how he doesn't. Plus, you know what I like most about him, Ben? This guy was so banged up every game and he still played. Well, he's coming off his best game of the season. Then he went into a bye week.
Yep.
So Breida's had some time to recover, and now he faces a Tampa Bay team that has just been dreadful. They're still missing guys in the front seven. They're still missing guys defensively that help plug the run. They've fallen to 27th in run defense DVOA this season. It's a good spot. Anywhere else you're interested in this game? We haven't talked too much outside of Brait about these Tampa Bay skill players. Where are you at on them? And are you going to have a decent amount of Winston?
So I have a little Winston right now. I'm not overly in love with it. I actually have him in cash, and I'm using that a little to hedge.
That's never concerning.
Yeah, it was him or Wentz, but I really like Wentz this week. So yeah, honestly I don't have a strong opinion on any of the Bucs guys, including Peyton Barber. I think if it fits the salary, go with it. Mike Evans, of course. He's the top guy. He's going to get the looks. Besides that, I think it's more of dart throws. Deshaun Jackson, he does what he does. You're going to need to connect for a long pass to get there. Humphreys and Godwin have kind of cannibalized each other here. I don't have much interest in either of them. So I will sprinkle Evans and even some Peyton Barber, who I'm not in love with. So for a game that's pretty juicy, there's no one that I really zoned in on from the Bucs.
Yeah, me neither. I think Hunter's talking to me. He he just won a Super Bowl and you're crying. Dude, you don't know how it works around here, bro. But this team looks they're terrible. Yeah, we just won a Super Bowl, but how long are we gonna let that ride for? Look, we all appreciate it, but no Super Bowl reigning team, no reigning Super Bowl champion has lost by as many points ever in the Super Bowl era as the Eagles did last week. So and the Sixers lost at home and snapped their winning streak at home to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So
all that.
Let me cry, man. And then the Cavs beat the Rockets yesterday too. It's crazy. But yeah, let me have my time. I like Winston. The problem is it's tough for me everywhere else. I'm not going to be loading up on Brait. I think what I'm going to do, Ben, I've already been looking at this. I think I'm just going to limit exposure to Jackson, to Evans, to Godwin, get all of them into lineups, because on any given day, one of these guys can go off. Humphreys is a really tough one for me to get much interest in. I'll definitely have the least of him. But if you're playing Winston, I think the way to go, if you're playing a lot of lineups, is just limit the exposure to all of those guys and kind of mix them in throughout your teams.
Yeah, that's just the way it is, because I have a real hard time prioritizing. If, say, Jameis really has a big game, I think there's a lot of ways that goes. I don't think you can correlate it to say, oh, if Winston goes off, Deshaun Jackson's getting there. Well, that's just not true. There's a lot of guys, and they do spread it around. So that's what I would do too. It's a good game, of course. These are two bad teams, but for fantasy purposes, it's a good one, and there's plenty of value on both sides. And obviously, these Niners receivers you can take shots with.
All right, and quickly, people asking, Kendrick Bourne?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I do have some. Just on a gut feel, I feel like Dante Pettis could have a big game. He's more of a guy who's going to rack up the receptions, where Bourne, I'd say if you told me one of them is going to get 25 to 30, say a crazy ceiling game, I'd say Bourne. But if you told me one of them is going to get me 10 plus, I would say Pettis. He just seems a little safer, but maybe the upside's a bit capped.
Yeah, I don't know how much I'll have of that. Maybe sprinkle them in there, but definitely not cash game viability here.
Nope.
New York Giants, Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles, again, coming off a brutal loss. I mean, if you're not motivated at all here at home, then I don't know what to tell you. I think they are. I think they at least come back out and try to win this game. Tim Jernigan is back, which should help him defensively. I'm gonna ask you a question here. By the way, in case you're wondering, 49-point total. The Eagles are 4-point favorites at home, which is not very encouraging, but it should make for a close game. How many first quarter points are the Eagles averaging per game this year?
6.
2.2.
That's not good.
I'm sorry, 2.1.
That's even worse.
Yeah. They have 21 points in the first quarter in 10 games, 21 total points. Now, I will tell you this much, though. Of those 21 total first quarter points, not very good. 14 of them came against the Giants.
So they're rolling. Yep, there we go.
So here you go. And my only point is that no matter how bad the offense for the Eagles has slid this year, no matter how anemic they've been in the first half of games, no matter how rough the play calling has been. Yeah, without Frank Reich, I believe that, and DiFilippo, the Giants are still a really bad defense. And the Eagles defense, yeah, they get Jernigan back, but they're dealing with injuries to the first and second team corners, Ben. Both teams beat up. This feels like a game where whether it's Barkley, whether it's Odell Beckham, whether it's Sterling Shepard against Eagles' terrible slot defense, I'll even throw Josh Adams, who's finally and deservedly starting this game. I have a lot in this game that I like. Whether it bites me or not is yet to be seen.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Josh Adams. I wasn't really into that, but I've kind of warmed to it. I do have some of him. He's cheap. He's one of my favorite cheap guys. Now Gus Edwards, again, similar price range. He's a little more expensive, but this is a good game. And I know this is your account. I don't have the Eagles just dead and buried yet. I expect them to come out and play well today. I like Carson Wentz a lot. I like Zach Ertz a lot. I like Golden Tate a lot. And of course, you could throw Alshon. I like pretty much all the Eagles' weapons. Talk about mixing and matching. That's just what I did. And then on the other side, I get it. I ran it back with some Giants, but to be honest, I'm not overly high on them. You're paying these are the guys that took the Gurley, Kamara, Michael Thomas price tags. It's Odell and Saquon. Are they worthy? Yeah, they're both very, very, very good. But you need a lot to get there. So I attacked when I had the money with guys like Odell. I do prefer AB, and we'll get to him. And then I like Sterling Shepard. I totally get that play. You said it. The Eagles' secondary is the guys that they brought in who were not real people are also hurt. So now they're on like it's straight creative players. So that's never good.
Man. Yeah, no, absolutely. It is. By the way, Greg Massey says, you guys are like Mac and Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He said that's a compliment, by the way.
Yeah, I've heard a lot worse than that in my life, so I respect that. That's a good thing.
Right, exactly. By the way, Karl Marx says, I love Golden Tate. I think Golden Tate's interesting. I said it last week. He was a risky play last week. He's a risky play this week who has a lot of talent. And the problem is Mike Groh, the offensive coordinator of the Eagles, said it's been challenging integrating Tate into the offense. First of all, that's a ridiculous thing to say when you've got a perennial 90 reception, 1,000-yard receiver and you can't integrate him into the offense. So they had him running mostly in the slot. They moved Aguilar outside at times last week. He doubled his snap counts from the first week he played. I think you see the snap counts increase this week as well. Tate is interesting. Tournament only. I keep going back. Now, look, I'll just preface this with Saquon Barkley and Beckham. I'm not going to talk much about. These two guys are facing a defense that has been carved up in all facets of the game. Whether it's Barkley who's going to beat him on the ground or through the air. Eagles average yards per carry has flown through the roof this year. They've been crushed everywhere. Boundary on the perimeter, in the slot, you name it. So Beckham and Barkley are both very firmly in play. There's no disputing that. It's just how much of them you want is the question. But with Shepard is a very interesting play here. He's had excellent games against the Eagles in the past because the Eagles generally have a decent pass rush. Eli Manning's forced to release the ball quickly. And when that's the case, Sterling Shepard is the one that should benefit from that. And it's also interesting that Evan Ingram really hasn't been involved outside of that long 33-yard or 54-yard catch and run last week towards the end of the game. He would have been a huge disappointment. So I definitely like Sterling Shepard this week as well.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, that's really what I did. I attacked the Eagles offense pretty heavily. And when I had salary, I ran it back with the appropriate giant out of those three.
Right. Josh Adams, by the way, and then we can move on here. He's starting. You know that starting doesn't mean a whole lot when it comes to football, right? Like whatever. We've seen guys get demoted because they showed up late to a meeting. They don't start, which means they don't play the first three plays. And yeah, right. Not even the first series sometimes. Like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. And then they're back in for the rest of the game. I think Josh Adams, for the first time this season, he hasn't seen 10 carries or more. I could see this if everything game flow permits. I could see him giving you 15 carries here today. He's very cheap. He's averaging north of 6 yards per carry on 34 attempts this year. I will have some Josh Adams, that's for sure. What about you?
Yeah, I that's a guy that I initially was like, I'm kind of skeptical. We've seen the story before with the Eagles, but I'm warming to it. It's just for a lot of these slates, other news affects things, and with the Gus Edwards stuff, it indirectly affects Josh Adams' ownership and their situation. So I will roll the dice there on some teams and definitely play him, and hopefully he does get the big workload.
Yep. Eric Wilson says Philly's receivers are like Baltimore's Seattle backs. You never know who will get the lion's share of targets. That is true outside of, and I guess you said receivers, not pass catchers, outside of Zach Ertz. Aside from last week, Ertz has been a weekly target monster, and he's pretty much in play every week just as a safety blanket, Ben.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I love Ertz this week. No problem with him.
Yeah. Also, I don't mean to hit on every single player here, but I kind of have to. Jeffrey will be a guy that I'm going to have some exposure to. It's really this simple. The Giants' top corner is not good. I don't see. It's a very good matchup for Alshon Jeffrey, and I will have some of him as well. I don't know how much because it's a deep position. Jets and New England Patriots, Ben. Patriots coming off of that heinous Week 10 loss going into their bye, 34-10 to the Tennessee Titans. Now they've got this road tilt with the Jets, who are coming off a equally disturbing nightmare of a game to the Buffalo Bills, getting crushed. What was it, 41-10? What do you make of this one right now? If you look at the total, it is, where are we at? 46.5. The Patriots are still 13-point favorites on the road, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little skeptical of the line. The Jets play the Patriots tough. Not that I think they win by any stretch. So I kept it pretty simple. I'm not chasing too much on the Jets. I get if you want to go to Enunwa, Elijah McGuire, if you want to take some gamble. Not really looking, McCown. If you're truly punting at quarterback, I didn't do that much at all. On the other side, Edelman, great spot. Josh Gordon, I think is a worthwhile risk. He's getting the targets. If they can hold up, he could hit some deep balls for Brady. Then the interesting guy to me is Gronk. He's an afterthought for a lot of reasons. There are two absolutely stud tight ends, both in great spots. So it feels like if anyone has the money to pay up, they're going to Kittle or Ertz. I think if you want to be really sneaky, you can go to Gronk, who, when's the last time we've seen him at 5,100 and not popular?
Crazy. I have to go to Gronk today. No matter how disappointing he's been this year, Gronk at 5,100, I'm just letting you know right now, if he hurts me this week, so be it.
Yep, and he's not going to be popular. So it's just a rare combo with him that he's very cheap and not. It's a good spot if you want to be sneaky. Now, the performances haven't been there this year, but I will still bank that he has a big game in him here and there for sure.
Yep, I am right there with you, and I will certainly have quite a bit of him today. Burns me or not, Gronk at 5,100 is just someone I'm willing to roll the dice on because he's still capable of giving you 2 touchdowns, even if it's on 4 targets, Ben.
100%.
Outside of that, it's tough. Sony Michel, I can't trust the workload right now. I have no issues with James White, but I don't see myself paying for him there. And then Edelman's a very good play, to be fair. Edelman is always a reliable option. I think he's better suited for cash, but no one's going to tell you not to play him. We still got a couple games to get to and not a whole lot of time. So you want to round this game out for me if there's anyone in New York or on the Patriots that we haven't given you to?
No, I think you basically said it. I feel most comfortable with Edelman just from a floor standpoint. And I think a guy, if you want to roll the dice, someone like Gronk, someone like Josh Gordon. And I echo your thoughts on the running backs. James White, no problem with him, but I'm not going to get there.
Right, me too. Josh and Chris coming up next, live before lock, taking you up to 1 p.m. Eastern. Anything we don't get to, they will certainly cover here, along with breaking news. Arizona in LA facing the Chargers. Here's one where you have a plump 14-point spread in favor of LA. Melvin Gordon's going to play. I do worry about his workload a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I'm skeptical as well. This is a tough one because it's a late game. We're not going to really know. Put people, this is why you want to flex your late game, because if for some reason he has a setback and sits, Eckler becomes, a borderline plug and play. I don't really have much from this game. I think Keenan Allen is certainly in play. We'll see it looks like Tyrell Williams might be hurt as well, so that could open some up. And then on the other side, I'm not messing around too much with the Cardinals. I think this is a get right spot. Chargers defense is one of my favorites on the entire slate.
Me too. You have to go to the Chargers here, no question. Bounce back, get right game, as you called it, whatever you want to consider it. Very good spot. I'm not going to have a lot of Keenan Allen, though. I think this is one of those games where, as good as Keenan Allen's been since, squeaky wheel gets the grease, and he had been complaining about not getting work. He's getting a heavier workload. I have no issues with him. Similar to Edelman, I think he's probably better suited for cash. I'm not going to Antonio Gates. I know he's been revived from the dead, but still not going there. And then Rivers is just kind of a floor play where you're probably going to get a nice floor from him. But aside from that, I don't see the ceiling game being here, Ben. And in Arizona, let me just ask you quickly, do you have any interest in David Johnson here?
No, I mean, I'm not opposed. He's good enough, and Leftwich has seemed to revive him a little. So it's not the worst play. It's not like he's crossed off my board or anything, but I certainly did not prioritize getting him in. I think Mixon, who's a little cheaper, is nice. And then you have the Connors and McCaffreys of the world, a little more expensive than him, who I also am pretty interested in.
All right, fair enough. Colts, Miami. I was really surprised to see. I was really surprised to see the Colts at 7.5-point favorites. They're now 9-point favorites, which is a little bit more like it. I love Andrew Luck. I'm going to have quite a bit of Marlon Mack. T.Y. Hilton was a guy that he was my highest owned player last week, and it worked out. I don't expect the same production this week, but I still think that, against Xavier Howard, he can beat him. He's quicker. And I like, as I mentioned, Marlon Mack. And then on the other side, if you want to run it back with like Danny Amendola, fine. But I do still like the Colts here, Ben.
Yeah, Luck is rolling. They're inside again in the dome. It is, Luck's center is out. It's not the best thing in the world, but I don't think it's overly important at the same time. They're just clicking. They're keeping him clean. So fire up, Mac. I have no problem with Hilton. Tougher matchup with Xavier Howard, but still good. And then if I still am banking that Jack Doyle has a big game in him here and there. A lot of tight ends this week, so I didn't have too much, but I wouldn't hate anyone for going there if you want to roll the dice.
Yep. Not having Ryan Kelly doesn't help, but look, the line has only moved more in their favor. I still think you get good numbers. Luck has been amazingly efficient. And if you're not playing Luck, you might want to consider Mac because, Ben, I think the only way Luck doesn't have a game here is if Mac is running all over Miami.
Yeah, I expect the Colts to score. So someone on that offense is having a game.
Where are you at on Doyle and Ebron? I have no interest in Ebron, by the way.
Ebron's an afterthought for me. Doyle's a guy that if you say, Howard shuts down Hilton to an extent, I think someone like Doyle can be a red zone target, can get those catches. I have absolutely no problem with that. I have some. I still think he's a little too cheap for how good of a player he is.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out, too, that, Luck hasn't been sacked in like 497 years. So Ryan Kelly being out does make a difference. There's no question. But we'll have to see how much it influences them. We will certainly find out. Losing your center doesn't help. All right, we're running a bit late here. Last game, we apologize, but we do the best we can to get all of these in an hour. Pittsburgh and Denver, Ben. What do you got here? This one is in Denver. And right now you've got the Pittsburgh Steelers as 3-point favorites and a 47.5-point total.
Yeah, not much to say. I think it's for the Steelers. I have no interest in Juju just because he's going to draw Chris Harris. Tough matchup. If you have the money for AB, awesome. Play him. Connor, another really good spot. I totally get going there. And then the one guy I really like on the Broncos is Emmanuel Sanders. I think that's how they attack this. The Demaryius Thomas void should fall to, it's falling to a lot of guys, Hireman and Sanders included. So he's only 5,500. He's a guy I feel pretty comfortable with in a lot of my lineups.
All right. I James Conner, I think can really bounce back with a huge game here. I like Brown. Not sure how much I get to. Chris Harris is going to make things difficult for Juju. Vance, I think, is a sneaky play, and even Jeff Howerman on the other side. I'll take him over Brate any day of the week. I'll end it there. I'll take him over Brate. I have no problem taking him over Brate against a Pittsburgh team that has really struggled to defend the middle of the field at times and has done a great job on the sidelines, where Cortland Sutton is going to be contending with Joe Hayden. Sanders should have a good game, but I think Howerman here has a decent game. And I don't know, Ben. I'll put it this way: I'll take him over Brait. That's all.
Yeah, I have more. I have more Hireman than Brait this week. Don't know exactly where it'll fall 10, but I totally get that pivot.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us. Christian Josh coming up next, live before lock. Great luck today to everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Before you head out, hit us with a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when all of our videos, live streams are starting. Great luck in week 12. We'll see you back here week 13, Sunday morning on The Game Plan.